Hello, Dr. Stevens. Hi, Jenwin. You're muted, but I think you said hi.
Hi.
Oh, you're muted again. There
Okay.
you are. Sorry if I look like a mess. I just finished exercising.
Well, that's good.
My body felt it needed it.
Yeah,
How are you?
pretty good. Thank you. I kept meaning to get to exercising, but I still haven't got there yet today.
You'll get there. I didn't exercise maybe 3 days, just because with finals and everything, I just focus on trying to study and get ready for the test. But now I have to catch up with all the laundry, and I didn't even finish Christmas shopping. So there's my Christmas boxes back there.
Oh, good. Yeah, I know. But one thing at a time. So you
Exactly.
got all the classes, your tests out of the way, and
I'm done. Yes. Now I can breathe.
yeah. What year are you?
Junior, I have 1 year left. Well, I just finished my junior year, I guess. So senior.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Term.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was gonna ask you your background. You said that's a picture, right, of your like the view from your window or something?
Right. So if I look out, I see that view, but
Very
it's
nice.
not in back of me, but it's in front of me. But what's in back of me is not so interesting. So
Oh.
I saw
uh,
somebody do that. I said, well, I can do that. So I just took a picture of the window.
yeah, it looks like you were sitting in front of your window. Nice. Are you ready for today's topic?
I wasn't sure what it is. Motivation, is that the general topic or a
Yes,
specific?
it is a motivation meeting. And this one, the topic is how to how to oh my gosh, Dr. Stevens is not gonna like me. How to keep moving from a setback, something like that,
Oh, okay.
which I should find the title. I wrote it down somewhere.
I know
Uh,
you talked about setback once before.
Getting back on track after a setback.
Oh, okay. Getting back on track. So are all your classes online, or do you have some in-person things? Because this is such a physical major, you know.
Right? Yeah. No, they're all online, and I do have to say that I feel so when we shifted to virtual. I was in a class. What class was that? Kind of like injury prevention type stuff. We didn't get to tape athletes or none of that, which that's something I was looking forward to.
Yeah, that's
So I
fun, hands-on.
right but no, everything's online. Luckily, this semester I had really great professors who were able to, spend more time explaining and because there's a lot to it in this field, I think. And because I'm an older student, I feel I don't catch everything the first time. So I have like a lot of questions,
Um,
but all my professors were nice and explained everything. And so out of 5 grades, I have 3 A's. So
hey,
yeah,
excellent. So
I'm
what are the names of your 5 classes this semester?
this semester I was taking advanced public speaking. Hello, Dr. Stevens.
Hello.
Um, I was taking motor development and biomechanics and biomechanics lab.
Wow.
Yeah. Wait. Yeah. I'm missing a
Well,
class.
one's a lab and one's a two-part class.
Yes.
So
I'm missing a class.
that's
Are you
good.
all done, Dr. Stevens, with your grading and everything? Oh, good. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, just the, there I am. Just the final touches this morning, and have a little bit more work to do, but I'm seeing the holiday season a little clearer.
Yay.
Yeah. What are you going to be doing over the break?
Catching up on home stuff, home duty
Uh-huh.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. We were supposed to, we had a very large, big trip planned, a big family trip, going to Indonesia and Borneo, Malaysia. We were going to be away for 6 weeks. We had planned this a long time ago, meeting my daughter, and she got married. So we were going to have the celebration there because she lives overseas, and but that all got canceled, obviously. So I'm going to be home, and probably my garage and closets will get a little extra attention this break. That will be, and some photo books that I want to put together as well. So
That's nice.
hopefully I'll find the motivation to do it.
Exactly. We have to.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, should we wait 3 more minutes?
Sure, we can wait.
Dr. I'm not sure if Dr. Lois.
Where's your family, John Wynn?
I don't know.
We should do what we do with our foundation family on Tuesdays. We had one participant not present. So one of the cousins, another participant, called her and put her on the spot. And we're all talking to her through video. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
John
we're
Wynn,
scared.
is that a real background, or is that a fake background?
Well, it's a picture of a real background. So this is what I see out my window as I'm sitting at my computer. So it's in front of me. It's our front courtyard entry to our house.
Oh, it's just gorgeous.
It
Thank
is.
you. Yeah, I really like this location, for, as it turns out, for my office, because then I see all the delivery people coming up the walk. So I can go out and get my packages before they get stolen.
Okay.
Or I could see those people come up too.
Yeah.
We're the front door is kind of set back, so I don't think too many people venture in. You can't see it from the street. So
it looks like it's a park.
Yeah, this is a little courtyard, and we've been told our backyard looks like a park. I could, let me see if I have other backgrounds here for the backyard. So this is the back of the house.
We can't see.
Oops, I have to start the video again. There.
Oh,
Yeah, so this is the back of the house, and then we have a lot of property. It's about 1.5 acres. And so we have a pool, and we have a sand lot with a play structure on it that we put in when our kids were little. So in the mid 1980s. And now the grandkids can.
Still using it. Boy, you're getting great usage out of that.
Great.
Well, it's one of these big toys, structures that are made of like logs out of Seattle. And my husband had put it up amazingly enough. And so it's weathered, and I kind of had to protect it from splinters, but
Yeah.
it's still standing.
Nice. I like it.
Wow.
I love the greenery.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you. My husband, with his retirement, has been, that's his activity. That's his physical activity,
Uh-huh.
going outside.
Nice. Very nice.
Where do
All
you
right.
live?
This is up in Stockton in the San Joaquin Valley.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so
Yeah.
we're, where we live is kind of semi-rural. So not all the property has this big acreage, but we had bought that early on. So
Yeah.
we've really enjoyed living out here, kind of.
Yeah. I know Stockton because my daughter went there, went to University of Pacific.
Oh, all right.
She's almost 40 now, so I don't know how long ago that would have been, 22 years ago, or
Kind of like my children's age.
yeah.
Yeah.
I loved University of Pacific. I was so surprised when I went on campus there because, you're thinking it's a gorgeous, gorgeous campus. I mean, it feels like you're kind of in an Ivy League school, and
Yeah, it is. It's been called one of the most beautiful
yeah,
campuses, and kind of not, real well known because it moved to Stockton from San Jose. They
yeah,
thought Stockton was going to be like Silicon Valley, and
uh-huh.
it didn't turn out to be that way.
Not that, but yeah,
But
she, yeah, she loved it. I mean, we could not have afforded to send her there, so she got a full ride scholarship in the education. Um, so she became a teacher, and she had a great learning experience in their College of Education. It was just phenomenal.
excellent.
Yeah.
Because since then, now they, they redid a building. So it's the Bennard School of Education.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so a new building, and they're doing really well.
Hmm.
And the university is rising, in status.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, Dr. Stevens, I think this is it. So whenever
Okay.
you're ready.
All right, Jackie, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Jackie. All right.
You just
So
have Molly join.
okay. Hi, Molly.
Yeah. So you know what you have here? You have 3 Stocktonians.
Oh,
We're all from Stockton.
okay. Well,
Stockton represented.
I was
Pretty
just saying that
cool.
my daughter went to University of Pacific, so we used to go up to Stockton quite a bit and hang out with her. I forget some of the restaurants that we went to, but there's a pretty big Asian community, as I remember, in Stockton, and I remember eating some really good. I forget if it was Chinese food or Thai food. It was really, really good.
Well, we were the third town on the way to the gold field. So
Yeah,
we had
yeah.
big. We were number 3 for the Chinese population
Hmm.
back in the gold rush days.
Yeah.
But then subsequently, we've had immigration from Southeast Asians,
Hmm.
because we have the Delta, which is very similar to some of the homelands.
Yes. Yeah. Well, welcome everyone. I hope that this Zoom call is finding you in good health and good spirits. And I think, I know for me, there's just a little bit more optimism as the vaccines are potentially going to become more and more available, and hopefully the drama over the election will be done and we can go on with kind of business of healing and staying healthy, and at some point going back to watching sporting events in person and going into restaurants and being able to hug people. I don't know about you all, but I'm only hugging one person, and I kind of hug a lot. So it's only my wife and I that are hugging, but haven't hugged my children, haven't hugged my grandchildren, haven't hugged some friends that we normally hug. And it's a little bit strange.
It is. I agree.
Yeah, it's really strange. Oh, by the way, another University of Pacific story. When my daughter was going to school there, I used to go to some of their basketball games, and they had a fantastic player that was drafted, I think, first in the NBA, Olakandi, Michael, I think, is that how you pronounce his name?
I'm not, I've heard of him, but I'm not real familiar with that
He's
story.
probably the most famous basketball player to come through University of Pacific. They've typically had some good basketball teams. Anyways, that's another side note about Stockton. So today the topic is getting back on track after a setback, and I put it into kind of a semicolon of aiming for progress, not perfection. So let me read something to you as a kind of a frame around what I'd like for us to discuss, and we can just have a nice small group discussion as well. So what I've written down is, what would you all consider a setback? And I'm going to talk about setback in the context of our physical activity, our exercise kinds of goals. But like some of the other topics I've discussed, there's a bridge, there's overlap between, a variety of different setbacks that we might have in our life, whether it's a health setback or a job setback or just some kind of goal that we have that has a speed bump to it. Maybe it's a little bit bigger than a speed bump, but it's typically not a wall. So with that in mind, setback is relative to the person and the situation. We all view setbacks very differently. We might call something a setback and somebody else would not call it a setback. So we really create the reality. So in other words, a setback is typically, it's constructed by the person with certain feelings, explanations, and expectations about how to move forward. So it's typically constructed, the setback is constructed by the person with certain kinds of feelings that might be fear, that might be rejection, that might be opportunity. There's typically a lot of explanations, from externally blaming somebody to internally blaming somebody. There's explanations that might have a lot more criticism to it, and some explanations might have more compassion to it. And a setback always typically has some kind of sense about expectations for moving forward, from no way to I can't wait to get to it. So all of these are a dynamic process, and the setbacks. So it includes what I would say in terms of moving forward. We move forward through acceptance of the setback, compassionate explanation for the setback, and a realistic and patient game plan to get back on track. The other dynamic process on the other pole is staying stuck through negative narratives, a victim mentality or blaming others, or unrealistic or no game plan and low levels of belief in yourself from a resiliency perspective. So today we're going to talk about sort of this continuum of getting back on track after a setback, the continuum from getting stuck to moving forward. And so how do we go from, if we feel stuck, to more of a moving forward kind of mentality? So let me open it up to you all to kind of think of a setback that you all had in your life, kind of in the realm of a physical activity, exercise, a goal that you set up for yourself. What kind of setbacks have you experienced? And then we're going to take it to the next level to unpack it. So anything come to mind of a setback? It could be around, let's open it up to a diet, to exercise plan, to something that had to do with self-care and self-improvement.
I'll go first.
Thanks.
So I just experienced this with finals. Luckily, my mother-in-law, she lives like 3 minutes from me, so we would go visit her, and just for, she got us paper towels or something. But anyway, she would give us food, not the healthiest, and because I was busy with doing studying and all of that, I didn't really cook for, I don't know, maybe a week. Then my father-in-law dropped off some food like chili, and so I felt I was just eating unhealthy food, and I kind of started feeling like, you're getting into the habit, so you need to stop. So I felt some sense of guilt.
Okay. That's a great example. We might come back as I present a little bit of a paradigm that we can come back and sort of unpack what you did with it and kind of look at a paradigm about how you take that sort of what I would consider a mini setback, but not make it more than a mini setback, because we all probably have experienced the week off our diet to 2 weeks off our diet to forget about it. I've gone this far, a year later. So, and typically that happens because of we feel stuck. So another example, Molly or Janwin or Jackie, do you have an example of a setback that you remember experiencing around self-care?
Yeah, I'm just in the middle of getting back on track. I joined this program with CSUN and have been very pleased with everything that's going on. But all of a sudden, I wasn't able to do my 150 minutes of aerobic exercise, or getting out and walking, because I was having trouble with my back and hips. So I contacted my doctor and went through her first, and she had some x-rays taken, and I have arthritis of the lower back and hips. So from there we went to, she emailed me some exercises through Kaiser, and so I started doing those about 3 months ago. And then as we progressed along, it was getting better, but I still wasn't, I was still experiencing pains and tightness. So in one of our family meetings, Dr. Loy happened to mention that the Movement Network is now doing physical therapy through your program. So I contacted a gal, and we spent 3 weeks together, and she gave me some stretches and exercises that I hadn't been doing, and it's helping. So slowly I'm getting back on track. And
yes, that's another great example, and it's good to hear your process. Again, you're in the process of moving forward rather than staying stuck and feeling sorry for yourself and sort of giving up. So you can see already how the mindset is so important to a getting back on track. And so Molly, that's a that's a good story, and maybe we can even unpack that a little bit more as I share more about a paradigm.
Okay.
John Wynn or Jackie, do you have something that comes to mind?
Well, I anticipate that I will have a setback
Okay.
because this COVID time, there's no excuse. We're home. You know, um, we have all the facilities and time to do our program. So, you know, and that's been really excellent that we've been able to, since July,
Mhm.
really get into the groove. But when we open up again, I anticipate that all those fun things that we'll be able to do will have me leaving the house, going on vacation, doing all these things that are um, uh, gonna throw a monkey and wrench in the works, monkey
Okay.
wrench.
That's
So
it.
it's a good problem to have, but it could be a setback nonetheless.
I'm just thinking about a term that I've never heard before based on what you said is like anticipated setback. And so how do you, I think that happens an awful lot. I don't think it's ever been coined anticipated setback, but I certainly hear when people go, oh, I'm going on vacation. How much weight am I going to gain? Or I'm going on vacation. Am I going to get enough steps in? Or whatever that may be. It's about kind of getting out of the routine. And I think a lot of times people fear getting out of their routine because they feel like it's going to um, compromise their being on track for something, and it's going to create a setback. So I think there are some ways to kind of a game plan to have with these anticipated setbacks. It just means bringing some intentionality with flexibility as well. Jackie, would you like to, do you feel comfortable sharing an example of a setback that you've experienced?
I think all of them to some degree for myself.
Okay, so you can relate to them. You can relate to the other stories.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, we've started to identify what is the process of getting back on track. I've started to mention that a little bit. And so I'm wondering, Jasmine, would you be willing to be let's see, I don't want to use the word guinea pig because it's not really being a guinea pig, but would you be willing to work with me on this paradigm, and then you can start to look at what it is how this might be helpful for you in getting back on track. And Molly, Jackie, John Wynn, please feel free to use this as well with your own, because I think it could be quite applicable. I think it probably will be a little bit more to you, Molly. I don't know how much this is around anticipated setback, but let's see what actually might emerge from that. So Jasmine, would you feel comfortable kind of working with me on this?
Yeah, let's do this.
All right, thank you. So tips to getting back on track. So the first tip that I have is to unpack the setback in a useful way. So what do I mean by unpack the setback in a useful way? So you've had this week of not eating very well, you know, you've been going out or you've been getting food and you're on a path. And so it takes some kind of consciousness to understand, you know, what has happened. And the consciousness that you bring gives you power because you get to see, well, is there a shame narrative in this? Is there a resiliency narrative in this? Some kind of narrative that will allow you to move forward. So unpacking the setback in a useful way incorporates a compassionate, my suggestion, a compassionate and nuanced understanding of the emotional, the mindset, and the behaviors that may have contributed to the setback. So, Jasmine, go ahead and write down these things: a compassionate and nuanced understanding of the emotional, or that's kind of psychological. The mindset is the sort of cognitive part, and the behaviors that may have contributed to this setback. Then I ask you to write them down, which you're going to, and then you're going to be sharing them with others. So you're going to do that already. And then you can keep on unpacking as necessary. So this isn't just we don't just unpack in one time. More nuanced stuff may come up. So let's look at your narrative with compassion and nuance. What do you think was what would you like to start with in terms of unpacking the psychological part of it, the cognitive part of it, and the behavioral part? Where would you like to start, Jasmine?
I think I'd like to start with the emotional. I guess the reason why I say emotional is because by them, I don't want to be rude to them. They made this food for us.
Okay.
So I don't want to be rude and not eat it and let it go to waste. But at the same time, I'm busy to cook our, food for us. So that's where I start eating it. And I'm like, okay, that was day one. So afterwards, and because I used to eat horrible, mind you. I'm 37 years old now. When I was younger, I used to eat fast food Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
But now I don't eat like that. So my body reacts to certain foods. So at the end of the day, I was able to notice I shouldn't have ate that. It upset my stomach or I feel tired. So then I feel that's where the cognitive starts sinking in.
Okay. So Jasmine, can we slow down here a little bit? Because I want to help you nuance and unpack this even more.
Okay.
Okay. So let's start with the psychological, emotional. So let me just feedback what I've heard and then ask you then I'm going to make a suggestion. So the emotional, psychological is that you felt kind of obligated. People were spending some time and money and wanting to give you some stuff, and you felt like it was a gift coming your way and you didn't want to reject them. Does that sound on target? Okay. So let's go to another level with that, which I think is even a better level than that, and it brings more compassion. I want to say, Jasmine, there was probably lots of really good reasons why you treated your in-laws the way that you did. One, it's respecting your husband. Two, it shows your respect for elders. Three, you're a kind person and you want to have a good relationship with with your in-laws?
Yes, yes, and yes.
Okay, so that's unpacking even more. So you getting off, having this setback isn't because, oh, I'm lazy, or I'm like, I don't have any discipline. That's a negative narrative that isn't going to take you anywhere. That's just going to help you stay stuck. So your moving forward narrative allows you to unpack that one part, sort of the psychological part, and have some compassion for yourself.
Okay, I agree. It makes it totally changes that perspective, the way you put it. Yes.
And I would imagine that if their behavior continues for the next, it's not going to continue for the next 5 years. You will probably have to do something a little bit different to stay on track for you. And you'll figure out the conversation that you might want to have with your in-laws or with your husband to be able to make sure that you can feel back to supporting yourself and knowing what's good for you.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the next part is the compassion and a nuanced understanding of, like, it's a little bit related to the psychological because they're not completely separate. But what was your cognitive, what was your mindset about this setback?
I think part of it, I was mostly, so that was like a second, what we just discussed, felt like a secondary emotion. The primary was, okay, just focus on studying, focus, because at the same time, my kids are going to school, they have technical problems with their device. So I think I was in the zone to just get over this semester. And that's where I found myself.
So the cognition there with compassion and nuance would be, again, to go to a deeper level. You care about your studies. You want to do well. You want it to be efficient because you knew that there's a lot going on for you. And so within that mind of your goal for doing what it is that you're wanting to do, that's going to improve you, it's going to improve your family, all of that, your compassion was, it's okay to from an efficiency standpoint, not have to spend as much time cooking. I could save time by cooking, by taking on these gifts from my in-laws or going out and getting something.
Right.
Does that fit? Does that seem like it's a compassionate?
It does.
Okay.
It really does.
Yeah. And so the behaviors I'm taking it were that you ate differently than you normally do. Did you pay a price?
My body just didn't like,
Okay.
was not happy.
Yeah. So you were probably having to weigh between what's the cost of eating the way that I wanted to versus the cost of paying the price of eating in a way that you didn't want to, and you were aware of that, and to be compassionate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So before we move forward to the next step, Jasmine, which is getting back on track and creating a realistic game plan, because we'll go there. I want to see if there's any, who is XXXX?
It just popped in here.
XXXX, can you please identify yourself?
Hi, this is Gary Loy.
Gary,
Is
okay.
that code?
I don't know why my phone is that way. It was set up for something else.
All right.
Welcome,
In fact,
Gary.
I'm on a walk right now, so I'm just going to be audio.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, we didn't want any Zoom uninvited guests in. So you are welcome.
Thank you.
Well, was still on mute. I was going to tell you that that phone call was from him.
Oh, okay.
So I told
Gotcha.
him to come on.
Oh, that's great. So
We have one
Jasmine,
more.
thank you for sharing. And it looks like we've got one more. Angie. Hi, Angie. Welcome. She's connecting.
Yep.
Hi, Angie. Welcome. Okay. So Jasmine, thank you for volunteering that one piece. Let's just get some questions, or, if this was sort of a clinical role play, a clinical lab, and you saw how we work together about how you create a compassionate, nuanced understanding of the setback as the first step towards getting back on track. What questions do you have, or observations do you have about that process, and how might you think that could be useful for you? Any ideas? Molly, any ideas that you have?
Well, I was just thinking, Jasmine, besides finals, which was a unique situation, has it been a problem in the past with them bringing food, or just?
No. I think the problem was just that I was so caught up in wanting to do better with school, and I appreciate that fact. But if I didn't have school, I would probably not eat it. My husband is, that's comfort food for him, so
Oh.
he would eat it. If anything, I might have a small portion, but at that point, it just seemed like, I'm sorry, guys, I don't have time to cook. I really have to do this paper. I have to study for this test. So we're gonna have this.
Oh.
And yeah, I got like heartburn a lot of times. And
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Okay.
But I like, Dr. Stevens, how you made us unpack this, and it doesn't feel as bad. It doesn't feel as guilty, and it makes, I guess I gotta learn how to set barriers too.
Yes.
Yes. So, but I like what you did there.
Well, you used a good word, and I think I probably have said this to you, that guilt and shame is a very temporary motivator. It does motivate. There's no doubt about it. It motivates. But the motivation is coming from a place that isn't always easy to sustain. And so my preference is, and as a psychologist, I would rather have compassion being the motivator rather than shame or guilt, because I think that compassion is a lot more of a sustaining kind of motivator than guilt and shame. It doesn't mean that guilt and shame doesn't have any use for us, but I'd rather unpack the guilt and shame, create a compassionate narrative around that guilt and shame, and then move on. Because often we do lead with guilt and shame as an explanation or as a motivator when we have a setback. But so listen to that guilt and shame, but bring it into a more compassionate narrative rather than acting on it from a guilt perspective. Does that make sense to you all? Any questions about that paradigm? So Jasmine, you're willing to continue?
We can continue.
Okay. So getting back on track, that's the second tip. So we've unpacked, now we're getting back on track. And let me read this to you, and then you can create your game plan. So first, when I say getting back on track, is patience, patience, patience. I have seen people get back on track with so much gusto that they end up re-injuring, they end up getting burnt out, and it it happens for a little bit, but then you end up reverting back. You know that expression, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back type of thing. So patience, patience, patience is part of getting back on track. Finding an accountability partner to assist you with getting back on track. I find that if we keep it silent and we don't share it with others, it's less likely that we're going to hold ourselves as accountable. So we get a specific game plan, we find an accountability partner, and then the next thing is that we measure success in increments, and we reward ourselves for these incremental successes, and we don't beat ourselves up with any kind of setback. So we keep track of our successes. And the last part is a cognitive mindset, is be willing to have the kind of mindset to look at progress and not search for perfection. So look for progress, not perfection. XXXX is with us in person now.
Oh, we can hear you.
Gary, we can't hear you.
I was saying I couldn't get the connection outside, so I came back into the house.
Okay, all right.
But I will check the recording later.
Okay, so Jasmine, from that paradigm about getting back on track, let's start with creating a realistic game plan for getting back on track. So we want to take something that might be kind of general out there to try to make it more specific to get back on track. You all know that New Year's resolutions don't work, because people usually just say, yeah, I'm going to lose weight next year, or I'm going to start tomorrow. That's not a good enough game plan. It's an aspiration and it's a start, but it is not a game plan. You have to move an aspiration to a game plan. And the only way to move it from an aspiration to a game plan is with some specificity. So, Jasmine, I know you're on the spot right now, but what would be a specific game plan for you to get back on track in terms of eating the way that that makes sense to you, for a variety of different reasons?
I think discipline for sure, and maybe plan ahead. Plan it like I know if I know it's finals week next week, plan the week prior to that and have a list of quick meals that I can just throw in a crock pot or something easy.
Yeah.
If I don't have any recipes, maybe have an accountability partner who eats healthy, and say, hey, do you have a quick recipe that you can share?
Yeah. So you just said something that kind of relates to what John Wynn had talked about anticipating setbacks. So having a game plan when you know that your time is gonna be needing to be a lot more efficient. So in terms of where you are right now, what's your game plan? Or maybe you've already gotten back on track and it's going pretty smoothly. And if that's the case, I'd love to hear how you're doing with that.
Oh yeah. So now that finals are over, now I have more clear mind. Okay, now I don't have that stress, I don't have that worry. Now I'm gonna start making my own food. So I know that what dishes my kids like, the whole family likes, and
Mhm.
more healthy so that I feel better and I don't have that heartburn situation I was dealing with.
So does it surprise you, Jasmine, that you got back on track so quickly? Were you doubting yourself about, going down this rabbit hole of eating stuff a little bit longer than you thought that you were going to?
I actually, yes, because I also decreased the number of days that I would exercise. So all of that, I was starting to think, oh, you're going the wrong way. You're not exercising every day. Well, the days that I used to, and now I'm eating unhealthy. So I was getting a little fearful.
Okay. So getting back on track has to look at the fear. So what did you do looking at that fear? How did, take us into your brain a little bit, how you moved from fear to action that was congruent with where you want to be.
I think I've mentioned this to you guys before on a previous meeting that after having 3 kids, I gained a lot of weight and I just kind of let myself go and I was so out of energy. I was having some postpartum depression also. So exercise really helped me in that, like the psychological aspect. I
Mhm.
got more energy. So that's something that I always think back to, how far I've come. And if I continue the wrong path, so I was afraid of going the wrong path and not being and feeling that way, that, tired and
Mhm.
no energy way. So thinking you've come so far, you've
Mm.
come along so far, and now you got to keep going. That was that was it.
Yeah. So what I would say is the key mindset that you said there was that you've come a long way and that that's a resiliency story. That's a story of recognizing yourself and the strengths that you have and that you've been able to do this, and you're remembering the rewards of it. And so that's like putting the carrot out there that motivates you rather than, as you know, the opposite of that is the whip. So I always say when you want to move forward, you got to find a carrot rather than keep on responding to the whip. So that makes a lot of sense why you were able to kind of put perspective on this setback and have a pretty easy transition to getting back on track.
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to add is, I don't know, my body just got used to that chemical release after exercise, which is why I just finished exercising. I didn't exercise for the last 2 days, but I felt I needed that to
Mhm.
release, I don't know, energy, and
Yeah.
it just feels really good. Like even though it's been a few days, it feels good.
I think that's a really good point too, because what tends to happen with setbacks, and maybe some of you can relate to this, setbacks in the very beginning are kind of painful. Like you go, oh, I've been eating this or I haven't been exercising. I haven't exercised for 2 days or whatever, now 3 days. And you still kind of feel like, oh, I'm missing something. I'm missing something. But unfortunately, after we don't do something for a while, we forget how much we miss it. So, and what becomes the norm is not exercising rather than having the norm of exercising being the norm. I don't know how long that takes, but what I've heard from people, it's around, depending on how committed you were to exercise, but even within a month, you can end up like just forgetting about the benefits of exercise or some of the other positive self-care habits that you've developed over time. But it seems like you got right back into it pretty good because you felt the positive So you're going to go on a reinforcement mode. Any questions about this paradigm? The plan needs to be really specific. Having an accountability partner adds to it, and to be patient and to expect some setbacks within the game plan. Anticipate the setbacks within the game plan. Again, we're looking at progress, not perfection. If you say, oh, I'm going to exercise on Monday, Wednesdays, Saturdays, Sundays, and oh gosh, I only did it twice this week. You can beat yourself up, or you can have a compassionate explanation for it, and you can get back on it so that it reinforces why you were doing what you were doing. Any questions that you have about the paradigm, or questions or comments, observations that you'd like to share with Jasmine? Any of you relate to Jasmine's story?
I personally can relate to Jasmine's story because I kind of had the same experience like over finals too, and I'm still struggling to get back on track. But I'm slowly getting there. And I could relate so much to it that I think, we don't realize that other people are going through the same things that we usually go through. So most of the time we kind of, feel lost, like, oh my gosh, like, and then having someone else knowing that goes through the same thing, it just motivates us to be like, okay, if that person can do it, then I can do it too.
Mm-hmm. Thank you,
Definitely.
Angie. Yeah, I think that's kind of normalizing setbacks. That's part of that compassionate narrative to be able to have. And then the other part is, is to trust yourself that you're not going to go down a deep rabbit hole after this week or a week and a half or 2 weeks of going off your schedule. To realize that you're going to be able to find the purpose and the meaning about the type of lifestyle that you've created. And just because you do it for a week or two, it doesn't mean you're going back in the rabbit hole. I won't say the same thing about people that have alcohol problems, because I don't suggest people just to kind of try something. That's a different, and that can take you down a rabbit hole. But on these kinds of situations where it's not a really strong addiction, there is some addiction to it. You can have some forgiveness for yourself and really get back on track rather nicely.
Yeah, I feel we make it normal to just throw guilt. It's easy to just say, oh,
Yes.
I did it. Oh, well. But compassion, I like that.
Yeah, when I sort of don't feel like doing something, or I feel like there's like mini setbacks and a little bit more setbacks, I try to remember, what it feels like, what it felt like, whether it's eating differently or exercising, and just spend some time with that, because that to me isn't a guilt kind of push, but just it's the carrot. Remember what it's like. Slow down, slow down yourself enough to remember that rush, or remember how much energy you had when you were eating foods in a certain way versus eating foods in a different way, and being aware of that. Well, Jasmine, thank you so much for being a great
Guinea pig.
guinea pig. Yes, being a great guinea pig. I think it will be very helpful for other people that maybe watching this Zoom meeting, I think they're going to be able to relate to you quite a bit.
My
So,
pleasure.
yeah. Well, before we say goodbye, I just want to wish you all an extra special holiday season of blessings and gratitude and health, and may this time next year you guys are going to be hugging one another and having your family and friends gathering, and hopefully not having to wear a mask. But even if you have to wear a mask, it's still, if you're all indoors together and laughing and sharing a meal, that I'll take that. I would take that. So be well, everyone. And
And
we
thank you.
don't know when
Thank
our
you.
paths will cross again, but perhaps they will, because I think this is the last one of the semester.
We'll keep in touch with you. Thank you, Dr. Stevens. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank
Have
you,
a
Dr.
good-
Stevens.
Yes.
Very
Quite
much.
welcome. Quite welcome. Stay
Merry
well.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.